Hi everyone, I'm in the car today and it's gonna be just a quick sit down and chat with you guys. Talk about the reason why I haven't uploaded any videos in over a week. If you are like close friends and family, then you already know why we haven't uploaded in over a week. But I know I have some followers that are not friends and family, so like immediate close friends and family, and so they may not know. The second to last video I posted talked about Elijah having pneumonia. I kind of want to go more in depth about that, and that's sort of the reason why we haven't posted any vlogs or any videos in over a week. So that Thursday, gosh, what day was that? I think it was like the 30th. Hang on, let me get my calendar. It's been quite a blur. 31st, January 31st. We had taken Elijah to the pediatrician. He was diagnosed with pneumonia. We had been taking Elijah to like the ED pediatrician office since the beginning of January. He's been sick on and off, I want to say since the end of December, like after Christmas. And at first we were told, oh, it's just like a common cold, he'll get over it. And his fever, and he just kept like having fevers, and his fevers would go away and they'd come back. And then like at one point, the beginning of January, he would wake up screaming and crying, like in pain or something, and not really with it and having a hard time. And that would go on for hours at night. And so we couldn't figure out why. And so I taken him to the ED, and they had said, oh, you know, he doesn't have the flu, no ear infection, his chest looks, you know, they checked to see if he had pneumonia, looked great. Let's just give him Tylenol and Motrin, give him some anti-nausea, he'll be fine, follow up with your pediatrician. So we did, and we just kind of watched him, and then his fevers went away, and then they came back again. So that last week of January, on that Tuesday, what day was it? Oh, I'm trying to think. We had taken him multiple times. Oh, like the middle of January we took him for his like 23-month checkup, and everything was fine. No fever, but no fever at that time because it had just gone away. And then it came back again the following week. So the 29th of January, I took him to a different pediatrician, only because our regular pediatrician was out of the office. And so that nurse practitioner said, oh, I would have never known Elijah was sick unless you told me, because he looks fine. He had no fever that day, but the day before he had fevers. Like, I think he had fever for like 3 days prior to that, and come the time of his appointment, he didn't have a fever. Ears looked fine. You know, she was like, well, I'm not gonna run any labs, the fever went away. But I've been telling her, like, this has been going on for over a month, on and off fevers, complaining of pain, like, we don't know. And so she just said, if he has a fever, by Thursday, bring him back. And then we'll do more work. So Thursday came, the 31st. We brought him back to the pediatrician because his fever came back again. And that our pediatrician was like, let's do a chest x-ray, let's run some lab work, let's collect some urine, we'll kind of run down these lines of things that I'm thinking it could be. Well, the first thing we did was the chest x-ray, and that came back automatically like, oh yeah, he's got pneumonia. So we didn't continue with the urine and the lab work because we figured the root of the fever, the root of the cause of him being sick was this pneumonia. So they gave us amoxicillin to take, and if the fever didn't go away by Monday, to come back. So we started the amoxicillin that Thursday, and Friday and Saturday he just started to decline even more. And so this kind of wasn't normal behavior. I was thinking, I'm thinking, oh, antibiotics have kicked in, he should start feeling better. And Saturday he was complaining of more pain, continuing to have a fever. He was having mysterious bruising. On Thursday he had some mysterious bruising that we didn't know what was, like, we're like, I've never seen that before, I never noticed that. Did he hit himself? We just didn't know. And we thought maybe it could have been him and Amelia playing. And Saturday he had a nosebleed, and it was kind of like out of nowhere, mysterious nosebleed. So then Sunday he was even worse, like completely fatigued, kind of like breathing more heavily. So I called the advice nurse because me and Curtis were like, what do we do? I don't know what to do to make him feel better. His fever, he's still having a high fever. He should be like feeling better by now. The amoxicillin has been in for over 72 hours. Like, he should be trending to get better. Why is he getting worse? So the advice nurse said, basically bring him to the ED. She was very concerned, and I could tell because like her voice was really elevated when I was talking to her and explaining what's been going on. So we brought him to the ED. And that physician was like, let's run some labs. Let's see what's going on. And they brought us back to a room in the ED, and they drew the blood, and then like a nurse came back a few minutes, well, felt like a few moments, but it's probably like half an hour later. Came back, said, you know what, we have to redraw the lab. And I'm thinking, why do you have to redraw it? What, you know? She's like, the labs came back abnormal. Lab doesn't think they're correct, so they want us to redraw the lab work. So they redrew the blood work, and it came back abnormal again. So the physician came back into our room, told us, you know, we're gonna admit Elijah to the hospital. I requested that the admitting doctor, the admitting hospital-based pediatrician, come down, talk to you guys, and definitely Elijah's gonna need a blood transfusion because his blood counts were severely low. So the pediatrician came and talked to us, pretty much said, you know, there are a few things that could cause this. I want to run some more tests, some more lab work, but I want to admit him, and he will need a blood transfusion and a platelet transfusion immediately. His levels at that time, his platelets were like 14,000, and at 10,000, when they get so low to like 10,000, it can cause the brain to just bleed. So he needed a blood transfusion. Normal platelet levels are well over 100,000, well, like way, way, way high, and even 100,000 is low. So he was at 14,000. So I was pretty scared. When we got to our room up on the PD floor, we had a new pediatricians had changed shift, so we had a new doctor. She was there when we walked in, and she was very gentle with us, and what she was telling us, how she was explaining to us what was going on and what additional testing they were doing and what they were testing for. They were gently hinting at leukemia. And but they were all saying it could be like X, Y, and Z, but like they were strongly suggesting leukemia. Very nicely, like without saying leukemia, you know, they were strongly pointing that way. So that night, you know, I just basically was like telling Curtis, I'm like, I have a feeling it's, you know, they all keep hinting leukemia. Like this is like a lot. He's sicker than we originally thought he was. And like, how did this happen all of a sudden? You know, like why didn't we catch this sooner, kind of a thing. So the next morning, an oncologist came in and talked to us, and he's all, you know, how I got alerted to Elijah was not by the admitting doctor, but actually by lab. Lab looked at the smear of his blood and found some leukemia cells, things that look like leukemia. So they asked me to come down and take a look at the slides. And he told us that he looked at the slides with the pathologist, and sure enough, it does show, it looks strongly like leukemia. All the other lab work that they had done, that the other physicians had ordered, everything was pointing to leukemia. So he pretty much told us that Elijah has leukemia, that we needed to do further testing to determine the type, and that he was going to be in the hospital for a long time. I immediately started crying because I felt like this was my fault. Like, why didn't I catch this sooner? Why didn't I take him in more? Like, what did I do wrong as a mom, as a parent, to have my child so sick? And the oncologist was, you know, he was very nice. And he was like, there's nothing you could have done. There's nothing you could have known that would have caused leukemia. He's like, we don't even know what causes this type of leukemia. It's just very common in children. And there's nothing you could have done that would change the situation. And my sister reminded me that I had done everything as a parent. I had brought him into the ED. I had brought him into the physician's office weekly. I was calling. I was emailing the physician. I was doing everything I could as a parent to advocate for my son because I knew something wasn't right. So the day we were told was a Monday, because we were admitted Sunday. Monday morning, the oncologist came in and talked to us. Tuesday, Elijah had a bone marrow aspiration and biopsy done. Like, literally everything has been happening so fast. Information is being thrown at us. Procedures are happening daily. It's almost like I have no time to breathe or take a break. It's just happened so fast that I'm still having a hard time coming to terms with it. I mean, now that he's had 2 doses of chemo, actually 3 technically doses of chemo, I'm sort of like, okay, this is happening. This is what's going to be our new life for the next 3 years. We'll get through it. So that Tuesday, he had the bone marrow aspiration biopsy. The next day, Wednesday, we were told that he has PreB Acute Lymphoblastic Leukemia. And if you were to choose what kind of cancer you had to get, if you had to have a cancer and the one that you were going to choose, this is the one you would choose because of its highly treatable and curable, and it's the easiest one to sort of overcome compared to all the rest of them. So that made us feel a little bit better, but it's still kind of, to be honest, still kind of shitty because you still have to go through all the treatments. You know, my son's still gonna feel like crap. And that Wednesday, actually I want to go back. Tuesday, when he had the bone marrow aspiration done, they also said that the next step would be to do a spinal tap because they need to pull some spinal fluid to make sure the leukemia has not spread to his spinal fluid going to his central nervous system. That is the next place leukemia spreads after it goes into the bone marrow. And that also he would need a central line placed in. And we had 2 options, whether to go with a Broviac, which means constant tubes hanging out, and that needs continuous maintenance, and Elijah wouldn't be able to bathe or shower or go swimming, and we'd have to make sure he didn't pull the tubes, and it would be an open area. Like, it was just more upkeep. Or he could go with what's called a port, and it's put underneath the skin. It kind of, because of his size and how tiny he is, it would protrude out. But the only time a needle or IV would be in the port is when he was getting treatment or while here in the hospital. Otherwise, when he's at home and not at the clinic getting his chemo, they would take the needle out, and then he could bathe, swim, play normally. We wouldn't have to worry about lines hanging out, getting infection. It just made more sense to go with the port. So me and Curtis contemplated so long about which one to choose. And our night nurse was super helpful because I think she could tell like I was having a hard time like choosing which one, understanding them. She brought a model out. It's called Chester Chest or something like that. And he's got the 2 different types on him, and we could play with it, figure it out, what we wanted to do. She was super helpful in providing us information, answering our questions. I think it was like 2 in the morning. She was till 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning. She was talking with us. And then the next morning, our day shift nurse, she was telling our day shift nurse that like we were still kind of like up in the air about what to choose. And so our day shift nurse was talking to us more, because our day shift nurse actually used to work at a children's cancer hospital. So she was talking to us more about it, and we ultimately decided to go with the port. And we had to come to a decision that morning because we needed to let the surgeon know for when she did the operation that afternoon. So Tuesday, the bone marrow aspiration biopsy. Wednesday, went in for a spinal tap. And they also at the same time put a dose of chemo into a spinal fluid to help prevent basically leukemia from traveling there. And then also put in the port. So he had a big surgery day that Wednesday. Literally, so Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. 3 days of being in the hospital having surgery. And then came out, surgery went well. He did great. He was in pain, you know, throughout the night. But they gave him some Tylenol, kept him comfortable. And then the next morning was Thursday. He got his first dose of chemo. And I thought it was going to be sort of like this big elaborate event. Like chemo, you think like big words in my brain of chemo, right? The chemo bag is like this big. It's probably filled up this much. There's probably this much of actual chemo. The rest is like normal saline. And it went over it through his new port, and it took 5 minutes to administer. And that was it. It was the most anticlimactic, like, transfusion he had gotten this entire stay. But they monitored his vitals the entire time, made sure he was doing well. He did throw up afterwards. But after that, he was kind of okay, just tired. He hasn't been eating or drinking since we've been here, and I think yesterday was sort of the first day he started to have an appetite and want to snack. Today, he's actually like eating when they bring the food trays in and drinking, so we're kind of heading on like a good trend. Where are we now? So Elijah, since we've been here Sunday, he has had 2 blood transfusions. He has had 2 or 3 platelet transfusions. He will need to undergo another platelet transfusion Wednesday night. Today is, what is today? Monday or Tuesday? Today is Tuesday. Tomorrow night he'll need another platelet transfusion. Let's see. Thursday he's going to have another spinal tap done. Again, to double check that there is no leukemia in his spinal fluid. He will also get another dose of chemo in his spinal fluid. And at that time, they're going to change out the needle on his port. Every 7 days, they need to change the needle while he's here in the hospital. So they figured while he's they put him out, they put him to sleep to do the whole process, the spinal tap and everything. They figure while he's under, let's just change the needle in his port so he won't feel a thing. And then he will also get another dose of his weekly chemo. So he gets 3, well, he's had 3 different types of chemo so far. One in the spinal column, that was, I forget, intrathecal, can't remember the name off the top of my head. He's gotten vincristine, that is the weekly, every Thursday, that's the chemo he will get while he's here in the hospital. And actually, Sunday? What is today? Monday? Sunday. He got another dose of chemo, and it's called PEG. I forget the whole name. It almost sounds like asparagus, but it's It's not. It looks like it. When you look at the spelling of it, it looks like it should be pronounced asparagus, but it's not. But everybody calls it PEG, P-E-G for short. He got a dose of that on Sunday. That one was really scary because it has some serious side effects. So there is a team of nurses in the room to make sure that in case he does have any serious side effects, they can intervene really quickly. I mean, they had the epinephrine, they had all these medications lined up in case something serious did happen. He will only get that type of chemo one more time in around 4 to 6 months. And typically if they were going to have a reaction to it, it would happen the second time they get it. So I'm kind of nervous when we get there in 4 to 6 months. Yeah, so he's had 3 different types of chemo so far. And he's doing great. I am so proud of him. So proud of him. He is handling everything so well. And he's so brave. He's such a brave little boy. And he's smiling. Yeah, he's tired today, but he gets excited over food, over toys. He wants to leave the hospital room so bad, but he can't because he's severely immunocompromised. He's just doing great. I couldn't be more proud of my son than I am right now. He's doing good. So that's why we haven't uploaded any videos in over a week. We have been here in the hospital. We are not expected to be released from the hospital until March. So we've got quite a few days left here. We do plan to restart vlogging and uploading videos. I don't know how consistent I can be about it. I do want to try at least twice a week. I was doing 3 days a week before, but I would like to do twice a week now. I want to share this process with everybody, not only to help us, like me and my husband and family, like cope with what's going on, but to share what we're going through, because we may, PreB ALL is the most common cancer in children. So I know we are not the first people to be going through this. So I kind of want to share, to kind of let other families that have experienced or are experiencing this, that they are not alone. And just to share progress and how Elijah's doing. I think the toughest part about this whole thing is that we have had minimal contact with Amelia since we've been in here. I hung out with her yesterday, took a break from the hospital, hung out with her. But, we don't want to disrupt her life. We want her to continue to go to school and she's not staying here at the hospital. And as long as she's not sick, she can be near Elijah. But it just sucks to not, be near her like I'm used to. So our lives are going to change a little bit. We are not only an autism family, but now we are an autism and leukemia warrior family. We are fighting for Amelia and we are fighting for Elijah. So that's kind of what's new with us. And the reason I'm doing this in the car is because Curtis and Elijah are asleep in the hospital room, so I didn't want to wake them up. So this is where we're at. I'm going to try to vlog tomorrow because tomorrow is Elijah's 2nd birthday. I want to document it. I want to celebrate every moment of his life. I just want to be thankful for every day that we are here, we are doing good, and we are overcoming obstacles. So thank you guys for watching. Again, I'm going to try to upload twice a week while we're here. Can't guarantee you on what days, though. It just depends on how Elijah's doing and how we're doing, and if we get time to edit and upload. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate your guys' support, and just keep watching, please. Support our little man and just see how well he's doing. We will have our good days and our bad days, but he is a fighter. Bye.